This is
Hey,
Friday
Hardy
night.
Hill.
This is Verde all day after dark
God,
right here.
so
We're
bad.
three
Okay,
martinis in.
we are not.
We are not.
Hey, a heart. Okay, ready? Okay,
Swear word.
let's do this. So, since we last recorded, the team's leading scorer and talisman has been in a full-blown transfer saga and has officially left the club for his boyhood club in Argentina. That happened today. Austin is on the cusp of signing a striker who's masquerading as a left winger. A deep dive that we did on him recently involved a picture of him and his pregnant wife just casually posing with the tiger. Austin signed a player who is 9 days older than Owen Wolf to a contract that puts him in Austin through possibly 2030, which led me to ponder my own mortality. The 2025 Verde kit has been released, and the early reports, somebody has nicknamed it the Mowed Lawn Kit. And one of my favorite MLS players might be going to Dallas. You know what I think? You know what I think this all adds up to? I think we got ourselves an emergency.
Emergency podcast. They did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, hell yeah, shut up, hell yeah, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey, a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies, and boy, howdy, are there a bunch of them. So we're going to get right into it. Moises, how are you doing, and how are you handling all this news?
I mean, I don't have enough hands, feet, legs, fingers to carry all the emergencies. A couple things from the corrections department, Phil, which, as you know,
What?
we have an August robust publishing operation. The 17th floor got in touch with me to let me know that the kit has not been officially released. It has been leaked very credibly in ways that we
Okay.
do not doubt the design that is out there in the wild at all. But it has not been officially released by the club yet,
Right.
and I gotta say that's good
But it has
because
been loosed.
it's been loosed upon the wilds. I've got a personal issue with the Mowed Lawn Kit because to me, I have dubbed this prospective theoretical final jersey the electric watermelon. Because
Okay.
it looks like a watermelon rind that has gotten good and radioactive. And I actually mean this in a complimentary fashion. I think it's going to look good on actual human beings more so than on hangers.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, Phil. I almost had a taco emergency as we were getting
What?
ready to record
Okay.
after multiple false starts. New Year's Eve, get home from running some errands with my partner, and there's a kitten curled up on our welcome mat. That
Aw.
cat now lives with us. And also that cat, Stella Luna is her full name, but Stella for short.
Sure.
We have learned that when you bring one taco home, you make sure that you don't just leave it on the counter or just have the consomme
What?
that goes with your birria quesadilla, because Stella has a homing detection ability when it comes to bag-based food, and she will find it. She will find the fries from Whataburger. She will lock in on them like a heat-seeking missile. That was half of my day almost. We have actual Austin FC related stuff to discuss.
You really do. Yeah. So you have
I
a
mean,
taco eating cat. That's fantastic.
a taco eating cat, a Whataburger fry eating cat, but we now have a River Plate living Sebastián Driussi. We held our recording because we didn't have the official news yet, and we figured there would be a crumb of something that would validate this. And in fact, I feel like we have been validated in waiting a day. Even after it went effectively Bogart official for a few days now. Some would say even a week. But today we actually got the release from the club. How do we feel people should comport themselves going into the Driussi-less era going forward?
We also saw video of his medical and him on the way to his medical and the fans and the kind of fan attention that he was craving. He was talking about the pressure. Definitely some pressure was being exhibited there. Like
He did not look
I
very
kind of
comfortable.
feel no, he really didn't. Like, and I'm a little worried about how this is all going out. I mean, I hope it works out for him. I mean, again, like he's had some fantastic moments with the club. He leaves as obviously the all-time leading scorer, third in assists, sixth in appearances. So he's definitely been important to this club. But as I wrote about a few days ago, we have this kind of Reina, Wolf, Driussi triumvirate that basically defined the club since, even before the first season, right? But by the time that Driussi got here in the summer of 2021, I mean, that was kind of the axis that the rest of the team rotated around. And piece by piece, that's been dismantled now, right? So first, obviously, Reyna left for the reasons, and then Wolf obviously dismissed a few months ago. One of our true emergency podcasts rotated around that. And then obviously Driussi has left. The team's going to look different. But again, I had these concerns kind of all along. Not a 9, not a 10, not a winger. You put him with some really good people, you get him service, you get wide playmakers, he can be effective. But in terms of sort of being able to create on his own in order to score, trying to be flexible within the various systems that Wolf was trying. He just didn't seem like he was really kind of gelling with all of that. Clearly didn't seem very happy when things were not rosy as they were in 22. Spent a lot of time the last 2 years kind of avoiding us in post-match press situations. 23 was a little bit easier because the team was curating those post-match experiences. 24, when we got locker room access, we would sometimes come from seeing Josh Wolf, or even before, sometimes you would make your way to the locker room right away, and Driussi was nowhere to be found.
I feel like there are layers of context to put into these back pages as we close the chapter of Driussi at the club. Certainly
Mhm.
some really outstanding playmaking, some really incredible performance, an undeniable part of the legendary season of 2022 that, despite it ending in the Western Conference final and not going all the way to MLS Cup, there are amazing moments that are a very vivid part of the 5-year history of this club that we're only
Oh,
just
yeah.
entering the 5th year of.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
said, people saying, well, why wouldn't he want to stay and see how a new coach works out and these new DPs and, these other new players? And part of the reason that River Plate ponied up what the club did not put an exact number on, but we have some Bogert data that seems speculative, but very reliably sourced. Why would they pay so much with the drop off in performance? Well, they're playing in a Club World Cup. All the clubs that are in that Club World Cup, they are
Mhm.
all of them that need to fill in more pieces. They are all spending. And for River, bringing back a local homegrown boyhood fan of the club to be part of that leading charge going into that summer tournament, I think that makes sense for them spiritually, if not
Sure.
necessarily by looking
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
stats and that kind of thing.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, and again, like, he could also have a revival. I mean, again, obviously not terribly happy with the Josh Wolf final 2 years, as a lot of players weren't. So maybe this is the thing that revives him. He gets back home, he gets into an atmosphere that he's comfortable with. I mean, he loves the team. I mean, he has a River tattoo. I don't know that he ever got an Austin FC tattoo, did he? I'm not
no,
sure.
Maxi did, and now Maxi Aruti's getting a Revs tattoo, I guess, and completing
To
his
join the collection.
further adding to his highway of the clubs of the journeyman of MLS.
Right.
But I feel like some of the stuff that's been bandied about by the people who are very hyper engaged and focusing on a lot revolving around the club is, oh, well, he never really cared and he doesn't really care. I don't know that that's necessarily the fact. The
Yeah.
fact of the matter, one of his kids was born here. He definitely experienced some career signature moments that there will be Austin
Mhm.
highlights that are part of his highlight reel. He could have an incredible 2025 at River. And even then,
Mhm.
there are moments from his play in Austin that are indelibly a big deal, big part of his career. You're not going to see much of his work at Zenit. That is, these are the greatest moments of his time as a footballer. I think there is that mixed bag aspect to things. A point that you were touching on is because of the style of play that this guy engages in, building your squad around him was going to be a more complicated thing than building a squad that was flexible in multiple different ways, that was
Mhm.
not going to suddenly not function when he goes out injured for 3 games. And you've built
Right,
something
right.
around uniquely his play style at the 10, which, to your point, not a traditional 10, not a traditional 9. But that isn't to say, like you said, that River isn't going to find an overall equation and formula that really is well suited to that. I don't see
Mhm.
this as something worth torching a Lambo over. I don't necessarily see it as something worth any extreme reaction of, other than I feel like in my mind I was expecting something like this to happen from the moment that the Roto era of the club began, because he was
Mm.
going to remake this roster And as many positives as Driussi had in his column, the requirements of having to build certain things around him were something that I could not see being an ideal for a world-class sporting director like Rodo Borrell.
When you see a player who is making 6.7 million and is only contributing 10 goal contributions during the season, that becomes a little troubling, right? So again, that's again, you want production from your DPs. He wasn't giving DP level production. This was an opportunity to offload him, probably the best opportunity. You're not going to get this kind of money, reportedly $10 million for Driussi at any other point. Clearly, if they tried to, again, there were rumors about Leeds and 15 million at the end of 22, but he was also so important to the project then, and nobody kind of foresaw what was going to happen in 23. Although, certainly in those last 7 games of 2022 after LAFC win, there were definite signs that, yeah, okay, this is not working. When they went 1-4-2 down the stretch, the open letter to Felipe Martins, the back-to-back 3-0 losses against Nashville and Seattle, there were some real cracks in the foundation that were shown at that point, and that just kind of rolled over to 23. Wolf obviously tried to remake the roster, tried to figure out new ways to get Driussi unlocked, but somehow that involved Komanic, which didn't really work out. Of course, we know what happened with Rigoni. We know what happened with Fagundes. Yeah, it's been a weird time. It's been kind of a journey these last 2 years. Like you're saying, obviously some indelible moments that he has. I cannot say that I am really sad that this is over. I think that,
Yeah.
again, especially with all the moves that are happening, I mean, I think that there's new opportunities, and seeing the way that Roto's going to remake this, that's definitely on him now. This is definitely his project. It's definitely his baby. He's picked a coach. He's jettisoned kind of the last remaining foundational piece of the old era. Things are new. That's scary sometimes, but it's also exciting, and yeah, it gets me a lot more amped about 2025 and covering the team.
As we've been doing these podcast episodes and finding the personality of the show, one of the things that I found interesting as we've been doing these kind of, closing the book on this player being at the club kind of thing is random things will come up as we're discussing it. You mentioned Leeds, and then shortly after that, you said, well, and then what happened in 23. And for a moment, I thought you were referring to what happened to Leeds in 2023, where suddenly they weren't necessarily a club that was going to be spending $15 million on a Sebastian. I'm going to do a couple of crazy things, Phil. Call me crazy in advance.
Okay.
I'm going to reveal a source.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to reveal a
That's
source.
right. So
I'm going to reveal a
okay.
source. Initially, when the rumors were that Sebastián Driussi was leaving for $8 million, I mentioned in the Los Verdes Slack that a friend said to me, "I'll help him pack." I was the friend, Phil. I was my own friend. I said that to myself, and I feel like it's important to come clean. You had something else.
So one thing that I found really funny was the press release and the quote from Roto, which
Hold on a minute.
I'm not sure came out of Roto's mouth necessarily. So I'm going to ask you, because you
hold on. Well, I have a unique connection with him. Let me try to get him on the horn real quick if I can.
Oh yeah, okay.
It'll take just
if
as
you can, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Here he answered. Let me just. I'm gonna put the receiver up to the microphone. Yeah, Rodo, the quote from the press release. We're just trying to get audio. Could you just read that for us? Would you mind? You're not that busy. I mean, you never sleep. Okay. Well, of course, I don't know why you need this, but I like to support the media and support the club in any way. So, yes, Sebastián leaves Austin FC, having made a tremendous impact on this club during his 3.5 years here. We wish him and his family nothing but the best as they return to Argentina. He will always be welcomed with open arms in Austin. I have come to hunt down. Is that all you need?
That is beautiful. No, actually, since I've got you, can I ask you a few questions?
Like I said, I do not sleep anymore, and if there is potentially GAM in it for me, I am happy to answer whatever questions you might have.
Well, I don't know that I can promise you any GAM, but maybe some GAM can be found. And while you're searching,
please get to the point. Get to the point.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. Yeah, no. I'll get. So Myrto Uzuni, there are rumors about him and his pregnant wife and their pet tiger. Perhaps, I don't know if it's a pet tiger, coming over to Austin. Apparently, the deal is done. Apparently, it's a lot of money that's being paid to Granada. He is in the Spanish second division. Just kind of wondering if you can talk about kind of that deal and kind of what's happening. And, you seem fond of some lower division players. They've tended to work out so far, but just kind of wondering about this one.
Guys, guys, I have told you. You know this. You are roster experts. There are things I cannot comment on. If
Mm.
if a genius God created sporting director was looking at such a player with incredible stats, that would be an incredible deal and worth every penny of the dollar amount being spent. I don't know what's being rumored out there. I don't have social medias. I don't care about Twitter or LiveJournal or Zanga or any of the other places. Are you on GeoCities? I don't care. I will say this: you have to respect the fact that these players are the best players in the world. Austin is a very young club. I've said this, a very young club, but we are building a very big club, and I'm very confident in all of the things that are making me lose sleep on a regular basis. That's all I have to say.
Well, that's helpful, and it is good to know that your internet knowledge stops at 2008. So I believe you when you say that you were not paying attention to social media. But you may be aware on social media that there are rumors now that our rivals to the north, FC Dallas, are interested in Evander, who would be an intriguing player to bring into this club. So wondering kind of what you know of his game and how you hypothetically might think that a player like this would fit into the Austin lineup as it currently stands.
Guys, I've said this before. I There are things I cannot comment about, but I will comment this while not commenting at all about this specifically. FC Dallas is a football club, allegedly. I hear they are real and really exist. And they play some hours north of Austin in a city that may not be Dallas itself. I'm still acclimating myself to US geography and different cities, and I'm very busy, man. That is their problem, not mine. You should seek comment from them. But look, I will say this: if there is a deal to be made, I will make that deal, and I will absolutely clown, I think is the term, clown. We don't have a colloquial equivalent in Espanol, but I will clown anyone who thinks that they are going to get the better of me and pay less than I want them to pay for a player who I see as an asset that is now no longer on my books. That is all comment that I have to say right now. I believe the sun is rising in a time zone halfway across the world, which I am aggressively scouting for a player we will sign to a 7-year deal with 2 option years, and will sell for a gigantic profit, possibly after your death, Phil. So I really must go, but this has been wonderful, and thank you. And I'd like to shake your hand for the 3rd time, and
Absolutely.
shake my head at you like I'm confused, but I also know everything that is going on all at the same time.
All right, go do your thing, Roto. Thanks so much. Rodolfo
Oh man,
Borrell,
getting
ladies and
that guy's
gentlemen.
cell phone number,
An
getting that
exclusive.
guy's cell phone number. I can't tell you the number of favors I called in. That's the kind of exclusive access that you get.
Yeah. And
With
again,
it.
like the Roto like Triumph, the comic insult dog thing is like just so close. And I'm trying to imagine like Triumph with like Driussi. Like, oh, you have many tattoos on your arms. From the looks of it, it is so nice that you are letting your friend who has just started his tattooing career practice on you. Things like that.
I feel like there's a certain amount of trolling that some of these players, or at least their tattoo artists, could maybe deservedly endure. If you had told either of a month ago, tell either of us, hey, Driussi got transferred to River Plate for $10 million, Phil, would you have believed that statement?
No. No, like that sounds great. How could this possibly happen? But here we are. And then paying 12 million
For the release clause on
Myrto Uzuni
Uzuni,
reportedly. So
reportedly.
yeah, I want to pick this apart a little bit too, because
Do it.
did an article a few days ago where kind of looked at him. My theory was, okay, well, maybe he was just a plan B for Vasquez, and here's this rumor that's here before it really began to percolate and become Bogart official, but just kind of looking at like what he would bring to the team. I mean, it's still very much kind of shoot first, pass later kind of player. Looking at his numbers, this is probably what he's been relied to do as Grenada. He's been deployed as a striker there. Certainly he's played at left wing for both them and for the Albanian national team. Definitely intriguing. My big question is, okay, so you're going to load up on DPs across the front line. That's a very MLS way to do it. You've got Uzuni, you've got Vasquez now, you've got Bukari. I can see kind of between those three or among those three how goals get scored. I mean, Uzuni seems to like to take a lot of shots from the 18. I could see those either going in or keeper deflects one of those, pops to Vasquez or pops to
Yeah.
Bukari, and goals get scored. Green lights go off, beer gets thrown, all the good things. Of course, we're assuming a home crowd, right? Obviously, these things aren't going to
Beer
happen on
gets
the
thrown,
road.
all the good things. That's really what we hope for out of 2025. I mean, we're not
That's the
asking
world
much.
we're in now. Yeah, yeah. I do. Yeah. Again, I wonder. Okay, where's the service going to come from? Where's the distribution? Who's going to get the assists? All those sorts of things. It seems curious, but at the same time, super intriguing. Like if we can get a player of that caliber in. I mean, again, when you're gambling on a player from Europe,
A
sometimes it
player,
works out,
a
sometimes it
player
doesn't.
insisting on their release from their club, which
Yeah.
I mean, Austin very recently had experience from the other end with
Right.
that.
Right.
Like the
Mhm,
one of the things that I liked that you foregrounded in your piece
mhm.
was is that an indicator of something that might be trouble down the road? When James became available, I jokingly was like, "Dare we dream?" But boy,
Mhm.
everything about that guy has various locker room and otherwise complications attached to it, and that's something that in this
Sure.
rebuild I think it was sharp to question, is that something that might be a concern? Like how do they balance, somebody who might be prone to, the holding himself hostage that Driussi did in the way that some people characterize that whole thing.
Right.
I think that this is a situation where I don't have enough tape, I don't have enough data to go from, but
Mhm.
I feel like there is the caution in your piece is merited. And the way that I am being optimistic about this is not
Mhm.
thinking about multiversal possibilities of
Right.
how
Right.
perfectly things can go, but it's more, I just look at the other moves, the other things that have been done, going back to in an early press conference, Borrell commenting about, oh, these contracts, many
Mhm.
surprises in many of these
Yeah.
contracts.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
The
Right.
single thing that I think bought him the most rapport with me was that reaction from him, which
Mhm.
was few words but said so much.
Yeah,
And
that was great. Yeah.
and that to
I'm so
me,
glad I asked that
oh,
question.
oh my God, that was so good. It was so good, dude. But like that answer is what I go back to when I look at
Mhm.
a case like Izuni where I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, there's got to have been with the price tag attached and the way that this guy apparently gets Kirkland signature level deals for Louis Vuitton. Designer stuff at Costco prices being the name of the game, I feel like this big of a financial splash is not something that is being done on a lark. But like you,
Mhm.
I want to know what the rest of that story is. When they announce
Yeah,
this, I want that additional feedback from him, not just this is a great player, we're here to talk about this player. Okay,
right.
great. Tell us more about the player, please.
Right. And I also, yeah, like I also think that, yeah, maybe there is one more move coming. So again, I
Uh-huh.
mean, part of the reason I was so kind of amped about Evander and I'm so upset now that he might be going to Dallas is because I think a creator like that behind a player like Vasquez could be really amazing. And I don't really think that there is a way to still get him as a max TAM player. I haven't dug into the numbers and like what that would take. And again, this kind of cash trade thing is fairly new, so still kind of trying to wrap my head around all of that. But I kind of feel like if you're lining up this kind of front line, either you've got confidence in what you're seeing from Owen and or Danny to trust them in kind of that the dual 8 role or the 10 role, depending on how the configuration is going to be, or there's somebody else waiting in the wings. There's somebody who is
Yeah.
going to get brought in where it's going to make sense. It's going to be, again, this is like a chessboard, right? Like, why is he putting the bishop there? And then a few moves later, here comes the
Yeah.
knight, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now I see checkmate.
Extending your chess metaphor, I want to jump from chess to Go, the classic ancient game. that is
Sure.
even more
I'm game.
complex in its strategy than chess.
I'm
Yeah.
game. I said.
There we go. There we go. I like that we are seeing those chess type configurations of the decisions being made. And I feel like when we see the payoff of the theoretical, as we expect, based on the Bogart assuredness of the deal being done, I am very eager for us being at that stage where, you know, we saw the brilliance of Dessler. We saw getting Rubio on the money that they got Rubio on and being a good locker room presence. Look,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
is
I know.
not a Vasquez level
We're
sign.
not gonna debate this again. Yeah.
Right. We're not going to debate it, but not a Vasquez level signing, but
Right.
something of a mid ground between genius signing, oh my God, generational talent, and better than a panic signing to fill a very important need. I think Rubio on the
Mhm.
roster is very important,
Sure.
but Rubio could not have been the okay, this guy is going to do everything and do Vasquez level
Mhm.
play.
Right.
I cannot. I am hoping that 2025 shows us not just the chess level payoff of things,
Mhm.
but the go level complexity. This roster build that has been multiple windows in the building, that missing piece is what fascinates me. You know, so
Right.
where do you see them playing Uzuni? Like where, like strictly speaking, where are they putting him that makes sense with everything else that you see on the board?
I mean, I've been thinking about this a little bit more. Again, it's incomplete. We don't know the pieces, but my kind of thought is okay, Uzuni's going to be a left wing, but there are going to be times, a lot of times, where he's going to shift more centrally. Biru is left back, is going to cheat up. And then it's going to be up to Ilie and the rest of that back three to hold things down, right? So obviously, you might have Heinz Ike, who's maybe a little more mobile, or Cascante. Again, having them defend the flank, it's a little bit scary, but you've got Svatok in the middle of that, holding things down. You've got Dessler holding down that side. Biru's going to be the linchpin of this if that is the case. Just again, him getting forward, him providing service, him taking his own shots, but then also being able to get back if there's a counter going the other way, which to me is really tricky. If you have a player like Owen in the midfield, obviously he's got experience at fullback. You can have him kind of cheat over as well. You can have him kind of fulfilling those multiple roles. I think it is still going to be a base 4-3-3. This is something I want to ask Estevez about on Sunday when we get to see him. I finally get to go to a press conference,
Finally.
yay, and talk to him. But yeah, I want to ask a little bit about that and just again, kind of what does he envision? Because 4-3-3 is the base that he operates out of. It's Berhalter, it's that same school, but they were playing some with 3-4-3 last year. They were trying to do some other things. Again, like we had a Driussi problem in terms of where's the best possible place to play him, where's the best possible place to get the most out of him. They had that with Ferreira too, because he's sort of the exact same player.
Yeah.
And then their solution was similar to Austin's solution, but they offloaded him to Seattle instead, where again, in a system like Seattle, where you have a lot of discipline, you have a lot of defined roles. If you have a Ferrer among that floating, that's great, right? And like with Driussi and River with that competition, if you have him floating with the talent that they've got, that's great. If you have him floating with a less functional Fagundes and a not quite getting it Rigoni and an aging Finley, then it's going to be obviously more problematic. So that's kind of where I see Uzuni fitting in. Again, if we are trying to make sense of this, because again, yes, ostensibly left wing, he plays that position, but he really has a striker mentality from what I've seen, from what I'm gleaning from him. I think that's good for Vasquez too, because having when Vasquez was best, Brenner was the other striker. It wasn't technically a two striker system, but essentially it became that with the way that Vasquez and Brenner were played together. So I think that's going to help Vasquez. That's going to help him not have so much pressure on himself than if he is like the sole focal number 9. This is a very good problem for Estevez to have, but
Yeah.
it is a problem that Estevez will have if the signing does indeed go through as we think it will.
Well, here's what I'll say. So the thing that I am cheered by the most is that we are looking at what shape the blade being forged will take, not will there be a blade on the pole arm in the first place. Like
Right.
that's that we're having that conversation and not the is something going to cut through? Is it possible? It's what shape will the carving up happen? That cheers me. I have a joke a funny observation and not really anything to add. But the joke is,
Okay.
so Phil, it sounds like you're saying this is all going to revolve around a smart choice by Ilie.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do that.
And the observation is this time last year, Ferreira and Arriola were playing for FC Dallas. Driussi and Rigoni were playing for Austin. And now all
Mhm.
four of them will be playing in a Club World Cup for other teams.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's an easy thing to go, oh, well, look at these guys. They're playing on the world stage. Good for them. I'm happy for them. What Austin's moves say to me is that something that I have been told on background by
Mystery.
my response was, well, I'll believe it when I see it, was this ownership group is very serious about very seriously challenging for MLS Cup in the same year that they are hosting an all-star game. I believe them now. I fully
Oh, yeah, yeah.
100%. And hiring young, happy warriors like Nicolás Dubersarsky, to me, is also a signal to that, is looking at the future
Right. And I do,
looking at
yeah.
what's coming.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about him in a sec. I just did want to make one other
Hit it.
kind of observation. You talked about a blade and a pole arm, so we have moved on to
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons now. We're hitting so many games tonight. So-
Oh, the Austin glaive will let so much blood. Just watch.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about chess. I had kind of a Jenga analogy working in there too. Maybe we'll get there later. So anyway, so let's talk about Dubersarsky. So again, a 20-year-old Instituto ACC player, a year into his pro career, signs for, and I was able to find out the terms of the deal a little bit before the official news actually came out because of
Mystery.
looking at this deal again. The most amazing thing, I mean, again, we kind of get a sense of what he's like. He's a kind of purely defensive player, number 6 destroyer. He's going to probably be a very good understudy to Ilie. Don't expect him to get a lot of minutes right out of the gate, but I do expect him to develop over these next couple of years. But it's a 5-year deal with a 6th-year option, theoretically here until 2030. And I don't want to exactly disclose the age that I'm going to be turning in 2030, but it's kind of an alarming number to me. And just kind of thinking about a player that is this far into the future, thinking about this core that's being built. We've been kind of marveling a little bit last year about, oh, wow, we're getting players that are possibly into 2028 and 2029. But there is something about that kind of turn to a next decade that makes me really realize, oh, wow, that there is this kind of long-term future here. We are really kind of thinking about the long-term prospects of this club and who's being developed for that. That's a pretty remarkable deal in and of itself. But the player, it's going to be fun to watch him develop. I think we do need to develop a nickname for him because I do not want to be saying Dubersarsky. I do not want to be, as I mentioned in my article last night, four-syllabling my way through the next 5 or 6 years.
Just go, just apply a little bit of French onto that name and just call him Dubert. Come on, Dubert. Apparently he's already called Dubert. So he's Dubert by day and Dubert by night. You know, he's
Dubert.
Dubert.
my inner Josh Wolf is calling him Dubes.
Nope. Sorry. Who? I'm sorry.
No.
I don't know him. It's like you mentioned this guy, Sebastián Driussi. Who is that? Does he play here? He doesn't play here anymore. I don't know who that is.
No, he does not.
Nope.
All right. So what do you think? I mean, just kind
Well-
of initial thoughts about the signing and what it means and what he might bring.
Not a ton to add beyond what you said, but I think that it goes back to something that I mentioned to you that I wanted to mention from the press conference earlier this week, where I asked Nico how he would characterize how he feels now that he's had a number of weeks in working with Roto, the closeness of the relationship with his sporting director. Something I speculated on that I'm never going to get a straight answer from him about, but I might get some sort of an indicator for down the line, is that it felt to me that there was a disconnect between him and the sporting operation at FC Dallas, where something they've been reputed for, and with plenty of data to back it up, is that they've been jokingly referred to by some people as a puppy mill. They will juice people up and they will sell them off and they'll do a rebuild, and they don't care what it does to their results on the field necessarily. When they brought in Petar Musa, that affected a complete rebuild of how they were doing things around this guy, where things seemed to be going okay. And then suddenly there was a recalibration that had to happen midstream. And that is going to throw things off. And I feel like, sure, look, you got to take a job if you got a good opportunity and you got a family and it's an opportunity in the same state. I can see there being those kinds of positives to him taking the job with Austin. But I think a big piece of it that should not go unremarked is that him seeing a sporting director who would not play him the way that his previous sporting director and that operation necessarily were like, look, we're just going to make these decisions and you're going to have to deal with it. And sure, there will be a certain amount of that he has to do under Roto too. But I feel like there's a very different sensibility that is not just we're looking at this as a venture capital operation where we are, boosting up assets to be sold off, though that is a natural part of managing a sporting operation.
Right.
I feel like there is a difference in philosophy between the two places that Nico has been head coach in MLS. And I feel like the very forward looking version of things, which he touched on in his follow up to my answer, where I said, do you feel like Roto is going to give you what you need to start the season? And there were caveats that definitely indicated, yeah, we're going to have second team players and so on. But he said, Roto is not just thinking about this transfer window now. He was thinking about this transfer window well in advance. That work goes well in advance. And Roto has finally had enough runway to make those kinds of longer term decisions and deals. I just think it's hilarious. Serendipitously, this deal gets announced, and then the Erling Haaland, 7 million years, 9.95 year. How long is that?
20 till 2034, like a 9.5-year deal. Yeah, my daughter is a 7-year-old second grader. He is signed till the end of her junior year in high school.
That gets announced, and I'm like, what everybody hoped for, which was this City Football Group pedigree, La Liga pedigree, very serious sports business, footballing focused guy. He's going to come here, and what will he bring from fresh from winning a treble? And I love seeing that similarity of forward thinkingness. If it is, we're going to lock this guy in and make a mint selling him on later, or we're going to lock him in and he is going to be taking this club to a Club World Cup a few years down the line. That kind of forward thinking is what has me most optimistic about the whole project at this point.
Right. I wouldn't necessarily characterize Musa as a panic buy, quote unquote. I mean, I think that honestly,
nor
FC
would I,
Dallas was trying to build for the future, that they were trying to figure out and finally spend some money on a kind of world-class player and bring him into Dallas. But again, you've got this player that's kind of completely different from everything else that they've been doing. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, Nico, you have to make this new player work. You have to get him to acclimate to MLS from this whole other league, which sometimes can take a while to do. And then, oh yeah, you have to also make him work with Jesus Ferreira, who ostensibly has been your first choice 9, but is also something else entirely, and now is to be something different. Like I pointed out, Musa had 16 goals in MLS in 2024, but 5 of those were when Nico was his coach, and then he got 11 after. So he did eventually acclimate. I mean, I'm sure the work that Nico did to prepare Musa for MLS latched on. I'm sure that it worked, but the results did not come. And then Ferreira kind of had a down year too last year. And then I think the combination of that is probably, again, it's easier to fire a coach than fire a whole bunch of players. So I think that's the decision. Certainly that team probably should have done better. And I'm sure that Nico would probably admit that. But at the same time, I don't think he necessarily got a fair shake. And I think that he probably got canned earlier than he should have. I get to our benefit, perhaps, right? I mean, we still have to see how Nico's going to be as a coach in this first year, but it does seem like he's in lockstep with Roto. It does seem like he's got good ideas, definitely in terms of personality, in terms of his willingness to play along with front office things, pet an armadillo, reach out to fans, open things up. Vibes are definitely good. I mean, I think there's positivity, even with Driussi leaving. I mean, you would think, if you said, let's say at the end of 22, you said, okay, inside of 3 years, Driussi's going to be gone. There's going to be this weird transfer saga. He's going to leave, and there's going to be this kind of complete changing of the guard. People probably would have freaked out, but now I think people are okay with what's going on here.
Coming from an informed perspective, I think people who have been following this saga as it's been going on, those folks are getting it. And the more casual fans that don't pay that much attention to it, there are people out there in comment sections going, oh, well, that's it. The team's cursed for a few years. That's what happens when you don't pay that much attention to the club, is you get a weirdly skewed perspective like that. I feel those perspectives will be challenged from opening day. The thing that I saw in that Monday morning training session that we got to see the first 15 minutes of, as per usual, was different than last season. It
Mhm.
felt like a team that was operating much more as a unit of happy warriors all going in the same direction rather than having pockets that were technically all going in the same direction but from maybe a little bit of a skewed angle. And it's something that I can't put firm data on, or oh, I heard this from so and so's cousin or something like that. But there was a difference in energy with
Mhm.
the group that was there missing the
Okay.
piece that was missing and reported to the league as we were told. There was a different energy than the squad had. It was unburdened from certain things of the past that I think is going to be a big part of what we see over the course of the season. The captaincy is open, and it seems like this is a group that wants the best captain for the overall project and it not being dictated by who's wearing which number. And I think that's
Right,
a good
right.
thing. I think that's what
Yeah.
this squad, I think that's what this club needs.
Yeah, I mean, Ilya is gonna be captain. Like,
Our media availability on Sunday morning is with Coach Nico Estevez and Ilya Sanchez, and it
right.
would be cool if they've already figured that out a week into camp. That really says something.
Right.
Is they
Yeah.
really were not waiting on whether Driussi was coming back or not, and the captaincy really was open. And it turns out the guys who did show up to camp on time, including Brendan Heinzeich, made their decision. And a couple years ago, Austin beat LAFC when Ilya was out on yellow card accumulation, and now Austin has their captain. So,
Right, right.
how do you like them apples? Do you want to talk about the kit leak momentarily before we
Yeah,
wrap?
let's sour the mood a little bit. We saw the kit out in the wild, out on a hanger, looking like a replica, looking like it was maybe not like really the official kind of authentic jersey from the club, but very much kind of in the mold of that. And I know that you have some inside information from
Mystery.
you might be able to shed a little bit of light. First of all, what do you think of it? Because I'm not terribly jazzed with like the green on green necessarily. The Adidas template with the weird swoops. I'm not feeling this one necessarily right out of the gate, but I also didn't feel the barcode kit right out of the gate and ended up like not liking that at all. Love the Delo kit, but yeah, just kind of your thoughts on what's been happening so far and then just kind of what it actually might be and what might be appealing about the kit that we are not yet seeing in
Mm.
its kind of current form.
I had dueling sources on speculation of what the kit was, both confidently asserting that they definitely knew exactly what it was, and what both of them described to me were two totally different things. One of them is what has been leaked out there, and what I'll say in its favor is that I like that, and I'm not saying this based on sourced info about what the exact details are, what the inspiration. The way that it strikes me is it's evocative of the glowing lights of Q2, of the glowing light of the bombo that's used for the heartbeat of Austin. I like that vibe. I like that energy. The thing that is lost by looking at this as a replica, not the authentic, is differences in weave patterns of fabric. So,
Mhm.
not just the different color, but the different way that it looks. Because the Dillo kit, people looked at it and they looked at the replica, and the color of the replica was not
Mhm.
exactly quite right. And the
Yeah.
EAFC leak did not properly capture the actual fabric weave of it. That when people saw it in the Verde
Right,
store,
right.
they were like, oh, oh no, I love this. I feel like that stands a strong chance of happening, not just on the fabric weave side of things, but also seeing this on these absolutely ripped guys who are in the best shape of their or anybody else's lives. The contour lines, the armpit stripes, as people have referred to part of it, when actually
Mhm.
worn, what that does is it offsets the pectoral muscles from the sleeve. So you see where the sleeves start, like the sleeve doesn't bleed into the body of the jersey. I promise that
Mhm.
will look right when actually on a human being. And I say that
Okay.
not having actually seen it on a human being. The side swoops that connect to the shorts, welcome to the MLS One World government. And, they have the league wide kit deal with Adidas. And there are certain things that, when that's in the one manufacturer to rule them all's template, you're just going to kind of deal with it. I've seen it look great on some clubs that have gone with it, some national teams, even like the Wales jersey and shorts. Like it works in motion, it looks pretty good.
Okay.
Looking at other leaks from around the league, boy, do the Purina dog salesmen of St. Louis have it way worse. If you want to look at this pessimistically, St. Louis has it worst. LAFC's new away jersey doesn't look great either, if you ask me. It really
No.
it looks like they started slapping sponsor logos on golf shirts for the PGA Open. Live Golf really had a terrible effect on them, it seems. I think that this one will turn a corner for a lot of people when you actually see it on people, not just players, but also on human beings that are buying it as fans of the club. I love stripes. I love the thing that I heard that was totally different that I now think, might have been about a second team jersey or maybe another design that's coming down the pike. But yeah, I think that the disservice that the leaks do is to the actual artistry that goes into the authentic jersey, which to me, the authentic jersey is the jersey and the replica also exists. European leagues, like the replicas that you get for an Inter Milan jersey, it's a different and higher quality fabric work than we get in MLS. And I think that's really unfortunate. It's a disservice to the incredibly good craftsmanship that goes into some of these things. I was more positive on the barcode kit than I think a lot of people were initially, and I cooled on it once I actually put it on. And also after my New Jersey snagged after 5 minutes of wearing it. There are various other things that people want to apply to it as being cursed or something like that. As designs go, I think it is cool that the club got something that was not, oh, it's this club's but green and black. We could do an entire weekly podcast with me complaining about or talking about the virtues of this or that jersey design, but I really think that this one is going to grow on people who really responded poorly to seeing it in a fluorescent lit back hallway of I don't know where. Hang tight for the official reveal. I really think it is, not having seen the authentic, I think it's going to surprise people.
Okay, well, great. I'm feeling better already, so thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that bit of therapy there. We'll have to see what it is when it comes out, which I imagine will be probably pretty soon because season is not that far off. So
Yeah. Gotta
all
get
right.
that thing
Well,
in
good.
people.
So otherwise, yeah. So to wrap up here, obviously, Sunday morning, we're going to get the opportunity to talk to Nico. We'll get at least one article out of that, maybe more, depending on how much he says. Very excited for that. And then, of course, people get to watch the team practice, which is not something that ever really
It's
happened
new.
in the previous era. So good that that's going to happen. It's going to be cold. It's going to be really wintry out there, as it turns out, which should be fun. But looking forward to seeing folks out at the stadium once again before we kind of do it in earnest in about 5 weeks here now.
Yeah. It's great that the club is doing new things and trying new things. Something that various season ticket holder friends have said over the last couple of years is, what else are we getting for being loyal, for being day one in section this and seat this and that kind of thing? I think it's great that they are doing these kinds of things, and that, in the case of the Brandon Vasquez press conference, they did a private meet and greet with season ticket holders after they ushered us out. And I saw the first couple moments of that, and that led to the tag in that piece that you put. And I think it's important that there are opportunities for the players, for the sporting operation, for the club to interface with the fans without having to be as guarded as they are around proper media, even though, there are probably going to be fan media mixed in there in different situations. I hope you have a season ticket holder friend. I have a pal who had their guest pass that they gave me. So I hope you're allowed to stay, Phil.
That's the thing. 'Cause I was a season ticket holder. We decided I'm in the press box. My wife was not using the tickets, so we let our season tickets go. And of course, now season ticket holders are getting a lot more benefits now that I'm no longer one. So
They sure
all
showed
right.
you, Phil.
Yeah, they really did. All right. We're going to leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. Continue to go over to the Substack Verde All Day, and announcements coming soon about changes. We'll definitely let people know when everything is kind of ready to roll out. Have a good week. Hope to see you out there on Sunday, and then I'm sure more emergencies are coming.
That is like the worst thing I've ever heard in the history of the 7 years that I've been on this planet.